I've been asked to speak about the Arab Spring, or the Arab Awakening, as a lot of people are calling it, and its implications for the United States. And I think we have to look at the response of the Obama administration and assess whether or not the response has been positive, whether it's been capable. I think it has been. But I'd like to start with a broader point. What is the environment in which these extraordinary developments in the Arab world over the last 6 months have taken place? What's the international environment at this time? I think we meet at the most challenging time for the United States on the international agenda for any administration since President Franklin Delano Roosevelt took his oath of office in his third term in early 1941, on the eve of the Second World War, of that unbelievable two-front war, 16 million Americans in uniform between 1941 and 45. Since the Civil War, the greatest test we've ever faced. I think this time, the agenda that President Obama inherited when he took the oath of office in January 2009 is the most challenging time for our country since 1941. Why do I think that? Reflect on what is in his inbox every morning as he makes that commute from the second floor of the White House through the Rose Garden into the Oval Office. The greatest and most serious and most debilitating global recession in 70 years. And a recession that has not ended because we're at 9% unemployment. And because we still have millions of people without work, particularly our young people, and because we have millions of people losing their homes to foreclosure, and because of the lack of economic confidence in this country. If that was the only problem that the president had, that'd be enough to fill one term of office with the administration working flat out 100% on that issue alone. And that's very much an international issue, because part of the response to the global economic crisis is, can the president work effectively with China and the European Union and Brazil and India and Mexico, the other economic power centers of the world, to stabilize on a macroeconomic basis the global economy? I think he's done very well on that, but it's not the only challenge that we face, because beyond the global recession, we're fighting 2.5 wars. And with the sole exception of the two-front war in the Second World War, we've never in American history had to fight two major land wars simultaneously. 150,000 American troops in Iraq when the president took office. Now 108,000 American troops in Afghanistan. The president's announcement last night would have 30,000 troops come out in the next 12 months. But still, those two engagements alone, and now with, I'll call the half war, the war in Libya, where the United States and its NATO allies are fighting through an air campaign we've never in American history, with the exception of the Second World War, had to undertake such an extraordinary and difficult military mission on behalf of our country. Beyond the recession and the 2.5 wars, two countries, Iran and North Korea, in the two most vital regions of the world to us, the Middle East and East Asia, trying to become nuclear weapons powers, trying to upset the balance of power in both regions, trying to reduce the power of the United States and our friends and allies in Asia and the Middle East. Both of them crises inherited by this administration, both of them crises that President Clinton and President Bush also had to deal with. And that's just really the tip of the iceberg of this extraordinary moment that we're at internationally, because the heart of the international agenda, and certainly this was true in the last 10 years of my diplomatic career, the heart are these transnational issues, the challenges to us that are flowing under our borders, over our borders, and right through them. The challenges that mean that we can never again be isolationist, and certainly can't be unilateralist when we are dealing with climate change, or trafficking of women and children, or terrorism, or the juxtaposition of terrorism with nuclear, chemical, and biological weaponry, the nightmare scenario, or pandemics, or crime and drug cartels. This is an extraordinarily complex agenda. It's the heart of the problems that we face, and we need a globally oriented country to face them. That speaks to the mission of the World Affairs Councils, and it speaks to the responsibility that all of us have. So we meet today, I think, at the most difficult, most complex time that we've ever faced in our lifetimes, and the most dangerous. Think about 9/11. We're just about to commemorate the loss of 3,000 people on September 11th, 2001, the 10th anniversary, this coming September. How did al-Qaeda kill 3,000 people? They used the most crude means available. They flew airplanes into buildings in New York, in Washington, D.C., into a field in Pennsylvania. And it was the collision, it was the impact, it was the fire, the explosions that killed the people. The challenge for us is to think about what would happen any day going forward if terrorist groups use chemical weapons or biological weapons or nuclear suitcase bomb technology in a terrorist attack in Midtown Manhattan or Washington or Wichita, Kansas, or Olympia, Washington. They would kill multiples of 3,000 people using chemical, biological, and nuclear weaponry. That's the stakes. Those are the stakes that the United States faces. That's why we need vigorous, visionary presidential leadership. That's why we've all got to be engaged in the world, not isolated from it, not pulling in the drawbridge, saying our problems are too severe here at home, we can't afford financially or psychically to be committed as a global superpower. We don't have the choice in a highly integrated, globalized 21st century to withdraw from the world as maybe 18th century Americans who were often quite isolationist might have wanted to do. I think this is the environment that the president inherited in 2009. And this is the environment in which the Arab awakening has taken place. I don't think you can understand the events in the Middle East or put them into perspective without this framework of what else we have to do in the world. How about the Arab awakening? How should we understand it? And how should we understand the American response to it? I think, first of all, one thing to understand is abundantly clear to me 6 months into this crisis, and a set of crises, but also a time of opportunity, perhaps for the Arab peoples to build democracies in the Arab world, is we may be witnessing the end of the first act of a 5-act play that might go on for years or even decades. In the prospect of building a democracy in Egypt or in Libya or in Tunisia, or even getting the opportunity for women to drive in Saudi Arabia, unfortunately is a generational prospect. Ambassador Liz McCune served in the Arab world. She understands that change is going to come not as quickly as we Americans would want to see, or as the Arab peoples might want to see. So I think we can maybe take a snapshot on June 23rd, June 24th, 2011, of what's happened with the Arab awakening, but it's just a snapshot at the end of Act 1. This drama might not be finished for years to come. That's one way to understand it. How has President Obama done? How might we assess his performance in reacting to these events and in leading the American response? I think he's done very well. And I think for the most part, if you look at the 22 Arab countries, all in a process of revolution, transition, change, I think the president has been a very capable manager of American interests in reacting to some of the most difficult decisions that an American president has had to make. The decision, do you stay with Hosni Mubarak or not? The decision, do you go into Libya or not? The decision, how do you react to our friend, the government of Bahrain, when it does things that we don't like and care for in reacting to demonstrators in Pearl Square? I think on Egypt, President Obama made the right decision that at some point at the end of January of this year, President Mubarak had lost control of the streets and the respect of the young people in the streets and lost control of his government. I know the conventional wisdom is the president didn't act quickly enough, the critics say, to make the change from Mubarak to supporting the demonstrators. I thought he got it just about right. Hosni Mubarak was a 30-year ally of the United States of America and a very good friend of the United States, and we depended on him. And to have deserted him, say, on January 25th or 6th or 7th would have been folly and would have been unwise. But it was abundantly clear a week, 10 days later, and these events moved at warp speed, that we had to make a change. And I think the president, as a very good diplomat, was able to do that rather quietly, working behind the scenes, trying not to humiliate a friend, but trying to coax a friend to leave power peacefully, as President Mubarak, to a large extent, did.